Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Unparalleled Universe for another action figure review. And today we're taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends Maximum Series Spider Man. And oh no, here comes the drama. If you're a part of the online action figure collecting community, then you're probably well aware that this figure was a big point of controversy when he was first announced, and more so when the price was announced, because people were not happy with what Hasbro wanted to charge for Spidey. So this guy is basically going to cost you about $50 plus shipping plus tax. So yeah, it's pretty expensive. It's basically more than double the price of a standard Marvel Legends figure. So I will admit that is a little crazy, but you gotta. I respect Hasbro for trying to do something like this where they're offering something that feels a little bit more premium than their standard stuff. I think that's cool. That's something I've wanted to see from them for a long time. I just hope that they delivered. I think a lot is hinging on the quality of this Spider-Man figure. So hopefully, once we get him out of the box, he's just amazing, and then we're all excited about the Maximum series. But that remains to be seen. But we're going to get into it. Starting off with the packaging. Through the window here, you are able to see Spidey along with all the accessories. Look at all those hands, the heads, the spider sense effect. I love that right there. And then up front, it does say Maximum Series. We have some cool, like, comic book artwork right there. We get a look at the figure in a nice pose. On the back, we have him in a really nice pose. I think it's dope that they put, like, a little bit more effort into the packaging and actually have, like, several different shots of the figure posed up. I think that's very important for something like this. And I do like that comic book style artwork behind Spider-Man. I think that looks awesome. So yeah, the packaging does look really good. It's collector friendly and all that good stuff. But enough about the pretty box. Let's go ahead and get Spidey out and take a look. Alrighty, so here we have Spider-Man. And before we talk about the price and the value and whether or not it's worth it, I wanted to take some time to focus completely on the figure itself. And we will talk about the price because obviously that's a very important part of this discussion. But I wanted to make sure that we focused on the quality of the actual figure because I've got to say, man, Hasbro really killed it on this guy. It's a really, really nice Spider-Man figure. In my opinion, it's by far the best Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure, that's for sure. I've seen a lot of people say that this just looks like a glorified Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, and that's definitely not the case. I don't think they share any parts at all, like maybe hands or something, but as far as the body goes, I don't think anything is the same. The proportions are way better on this new one. He's like thinner, which I think is perfect for Spider-Man. The shoulders aren't so like slouched, so that's really great. And just in general, it's a way better figure than Renew Your Vows Spider-Man. It's not even close, to be honest. Some of the articulation is, okay, is like comparable, but you could get this new one in so many more interesting and dynamic poses. Honestly, it completely destroys the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, in my opinion. So the for the people saying that this is just like a glorified version of that, that's completely inaccurate. It did take some of the ideas that we saw on the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man and it pretty much just improved on them. And as a result, it's a way better figure and it's not even close. And then comparing it to this one here, this is the Spider-Man from the Amazing Friends 3-pack. And this is like a repaint of the Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man body. So yeah, as you can see, they're very close in size and stuff. But again, this new one just kind of blows this one out of the water and just kind of makes it obsolete because it can't really compare to the new one. I do like this one. I like all the Spider-Man figures from Hasbro, or all the classic Spider-Man figures, I should say. But yeah, I think they do a pretty good job, generally speaking. But this one by far is the best one they've done. And then as far as flaws go, this figure isn't perfect. I do feel like it's very close to Hasbro's maximum potential, though, when it comes to like Spider-Man. I don't know if there's a lot of things they could have done better, but there are a few things. First off, I do feel like the figure itself is a little too glossy, like obviously with these lights blasting onto it, you could see like, it has a little bit of a gloss to it. And obviously it would have been way better if they hit it with the matte finish. And we've seen them do that before. Like the recent War Journal Punisher kind of has a matte finish to it and it looks amazing. I think they should have done the same thing here. And I think it would have made this figure look and feel like higher quality than it does. It still feels good, looks good and everything, but I think just the gloss on it kind of takes it's funny, the gloss on it kind of takes away a little bit of the shine to it, you know what I mean? But yeah, aside from that, like visually, I think it's a great looking figure and I don't really have too many things to complain about. I think it looks awesome. Back here, I feel like they could have handled the spider legs up top like a little better, but they wanted to make these cuts for the shoulders, which The payoff is kind of worth it because you could bring the shoulders way back. And obviously, we'll talk about articulation more later. But, this kind of affected the way the spider legs look. Yeah, see, they look a little funny when you do that. But this is in the back. You don't really have to worry about that too much. And you can make it work if you're trying to take a picture from the back. You could make the spider legs look perfectly fine. See? But, if we're being critical and looking for things to complain about, that's the spider legs look a little funny. And then, the gloss. And one other small complaint I have is I wish there was a little bit more range on the lower neck joint. And that's pretty much my only complaint when it comes to articulation. Everything else is good. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny how people are just acting like it's the same as Renew Your Vows because it's definitely not. Even from like a articulation standpoint, there's so much you could do with this new one that you can't do with the Renew Your Vows. And I like Renew Your Vows. It's cool, but doesn't compare. And then as far as the look and the details go, I think they did a pretty nice job on Spidey. I know a lot of people were complaining because the web lines are not sculpted. And I like sculpted web lines for the most part. I think that there are some cases where it looks really good, like on the Mafex comic book Spider-Man. But to be honest with you, it's not really a deal breaker for me. It's, I could take them or leave them. I'm perfectly fine with painted web lines as long as they're done nicely. In the case of this Spider-Man, I think they look pretty good. Look at that. They're all clean. On the head, I know a lot of people saw some early pictures of this Spider-Man and the head web lines didn't line up. On mine, they look pretty good. Feel like there's one like section right there that's not absolutely perfect, but other than that, it looks good to me. And the web lines on the body look good. So yeah, sculpted web lines are great, but for me, eh, I I could go either way with it. I'm perfectly fine with what we have here. I think it looks really good. Again, the only thing is that shine is kind of crazy. But aside from that, it's a beautiful looking figure. Starting off with the head sculpt here, he does come with two different head sculpts. I don't think that either head sculpt is based on like a specific artist's version of Spider-Man. Like this one kind of gives me like McFarlane vibes because the eyes are a little big, but obviously not exactly. And plenty of artists have drawn Spider-Man with bigger eyes. So yeah, I don't know if either head sculpt is specifically based on a certain artist, but they do look good. This is the first one. You could see that the eyes are a little bit wider and the white space is kind of big. I like the thick outlines of the eyes themselves. And again, the web lines look good. You could kind of see his nose in there, so that's really good. And yeah, I think that's a nice looking head sculpt. Let's go ahead and look at the other one real quick. And I think this one is really dope too. It's not crazy different, but you know, the outlines of the eyes are much thicker, and I think it looks awesome. I don't know if I have a preference between the two heads. I think they both look great. Then aside from that, the body itself has some nice paint work. The spider logo on the chest is very clean. The web lines are nice. The blue is very dark. I'd be interested to see this figure in a lighter blue, but yeah, they went dark with it. And there are some like fabric textures and stuff like that sculpted into the leg areas. So that's cool, but I wish we saw that all over the figure. I think that would have been nice. Like the body is pretty smooth up here. The arms are pretty smooth. I do like that they added that texture to the legs, but it would have made more sense if it was everywhere. But aside from that, no real complaints. He has pinless elbows, pinless knees, real clean paintwork down here. Oh, back here, this is really the only issue. Like the spider legs can look weird when you're doing that, but when you have his shoulders like in a normal position, they look fine. But they wanted to make sure that the shoulders can move a lot, so they had to kind of paint those legs on there. Maybe they could have made the spider logo smaller on the back or something. But yeah, that's one area that could have been done a little better. But aside from that, I'm very happy with the way this figure looks. I think they did a great job with it. There are some areas where the web lines look kind of weird because of the breaks, like right here, because of the forearm being able to pop off, like the web lines can look a little funny depending on how you have them. So you want to be conscious of that if you're taking pictures or whatever. And same thing around the neck. Probably, I mean, it may be tough to even, I don't know. Honestly, I wouldn't really worry about it. I don't think that the web lines not lining up perfectly in the neck and on the forearms is really going to make a difference if you're taking pictures. That'll be something that'll be hard to notice unless you have a microscope out. Or a magnifying glass, I should say. But anyways, yeah, I think it's a good looking figure. I think they did a great job with the paint, and there's not a lot of sculpted details because obviously it's a Spider-Man, but they sculpted what they needed to, and in my opinion, I think this is a great looking Spider-Man. And when it comes to accessories, Spidey comes with a bunch of cool stuff. And this is really where Hasbro tried to build up the value in this set, and I think they did a pretty decent job in regards to the amount of accessories that he comes with. He has a bunch of really cool stuff, including like a bunch of different hands and heads and web effects. There's some things here that we're used to seeing with Spider-Man figures, and then there's some things here that we don't see very often, which is very cool. Not every single accessory is perfect, but for the most part, I think they did a really good job with the accessories. But let's see what we have going on here, starting off with the hands. He does have 5 sets of gloved hands, starting off with a pair of fists, and then he has a set of gripping hands, and these gripping hands have a vertical hinge. The rest of the hands have just the standard in and out hinge. And then he comes with a set of wide open wall crawling hands. And then of course he comes with a set of thwip hands. And then he comes with a set of thwip hands that have webs shooting out of them. And I like how the webs are different on each hand. That's very cool. Like this one right here has the straight web with the webs like wrapped around it. And then this is kind of like spread out webs. So that's cool. That's very dope. And then for the final set of hands, we get a pair showing off his web shooters. And look at that, man. How dope is this? I don't think we've ever seen web shooter hands on a 1/12 scale Spider-Man figure. So that is really cool. There's no articulation. Like you can't, I mean, you could spin it at the forearm where it pops in, but there's no articulation at the wrist because that thing that goes down the palm of his hand. So that is awesome, man. So dope. I do wish that he came with 2 of each hands because we're kind of limited here. You know, this is our only option, but it's still so cool. And, you know, they pop right onto the forearm. You know, we have the forearm piece that pops off right there. And there you go. Really easy to pop these things on and off. But that's such a cool thing to put in there. Shout out to Hasbro. I believe they may be the first ones to have ever done this on a 1/12 scale modern Spider-Man figure. I bet you we saw it back in the Toy Biz days, but I can't think of any other like recently released or, you know, 6-inch Spider-Man that has the web shooting hands like this. So yeah, I love this, man. This is so cool. And then he does have an unmasked Peter Parker head sculpt. And look, man, it's not very good at all, but I don't hate it quite as much as everybody else. Like people are acting like it's trash. I don't think it's trash. I just don't think it's very good. I mean, there's some cool things going on here, like skin tone looks good and stuff. The eyes look okay. I do like the Peter Parker smirk and everything, but I don't know. Something about this head sculpt is just off. I have plenty of other Spider-Man head sculpts, so, you know, I don't need this one, but still, for a figure like this, that's like a premium price and stuff, they should have definitely included a better Peter Parker head sculpt. Or, you know, if they like this one so much and they wanted to throw it in there, they should have thrown other ones in there just so that people have some options because, yeah, if this is your only option, that's definitely frustrating. But, you know, it is what it is. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it's definitely not that good either. But what is good are all the different spider web effects that he comes with. He has some really cool ones, including this spider web shield here. This is awesome. I like this quite a bit. And I don't think we've seen a spider web shield with a 1/12 scale Spider-Man. Actually, you know what? The Mezco one probably came with one. I don't know for sure, but I would bet that it did. But aside from that, yeah, this is not something we see very often. So this is nice. And as you can see, they did a great job sculpting it. Has a bunch of great detail. Not a whole lot of paint, but you know, it's the color that it's supposed to be, so it works. And it does have this stupid clip that we see on a lot of Hasbro shields, and it's not very good, but you know, it does have like a hinge in there, so you could kind of adjust it and do what you want. And you know, the clip seems pretty sturdy, doesn't feel like it's gonna break or anything, doesn't feel fragile. You put it on there and you don't have to be scared like you do on the Captain America figures. I don't know if they use like a different material or if it's just because Spider-Man's wrist is a little smaller than Captain America's. In any case, it goes on there with no problem, and you know, you don't have to worry about it breaking, and it's really cool, man. I like this. And then he comes with a couple of these web lines, and these are cool. They're like soft material, so you could do different things with them. If you want to have Spider-Man swinging, or if you want to use these to tie up a villain like I did right here. As you can see, we have Vermin all wrapped up in the spider webs. Oh, this Vermin right here is by the homie Nico Hodge. It's a custom. He absolutely killed it. This is literally one of my most prized possessions. I freaking love it. But yeah, as you can see, the spider webs are able to hold down the villain. So awesome stuff. Again, like nothing crazy special with these webs, but they're just cool and you could get some use out of them. And then he does come with a couple of web effects that you could actually mount onto the stand that he also comes with. And this stand is pretty cool. It definitely reminds me of the stands that come with the Jada Toy Street Fighter figures. I feel like Hasbro was definitely inspired by those. This whole system feels very similar. But anyways, there's two different web effects you could put on these things. There's this one here where the webs are like kind of spraying out, or it looks like it's about to wrap something up or whatever. And then you have the crazy webs right here, which I really like. It's not just one straight line. These webs are actually all really nice. So yeah, this one is cool. And then there is this one as well. And this one's pretty funny. But it looks like it's racing to the ovaries or something. But anyways, this is a cool web effect too. It's more of like an impact kind of thing. Shoots us at someone to knock them up or knock them down or whatever. But yeah, this is cool. It's nice to have the different web effects like this, and I think they did a pretty good job with them. And I do like this display stand. The display stand itself is pretty nice. I do wish they went with a more clear color. This is like a foggy white color. But still, it's cool. And then, it has some articulation. This rotates, and then this has a hinge, and this has a hinge. So you could kind of adjust it. There's different options and things like that. So yeah, this is nice. And then last but not least, we have one of the coolest accessories that I've seen with the Spider-Man figure. And it's one of those things that, like, it should probably come with every Spider-Man figure, just like Thwip Hands. And that would be his tingling spider sense effect. And I love that Hasbro included this. I can't even think of another 1/12 scale Spider-Man figure that has this effect. Can someone let me know in the comments if there's one out there that I'm just not thinking about? Because yeah, I feel like we don't see, if any other ones have them, like, we don't see this often, and that's just kind of crazy because it's just one of those things that's unique to Spider-Man. But look at that, man. This is so dope. This and the web shooter hands are just so cool. Those are some of the coolest accessories that I've seen with the Spider-Man figure. And I love the way they did this. Like, it just squeezes onto the head and it's just held on with tension. There's no clips or pegs or anything goofy like that. They kept it simple and it's just very effective. So I love this spider sense effect. So yeah, I think they did a great job with all the accessories. Obviously, not every single thing is perfect. The unmasked head definitely could have been better, but aside from that, everything here is really dope. I like the different masked heads, all the different hands. The web effects are cool. They definitely thought out of the box with the web effects, so that's nice to see. I absolutely love the web shooter hands and the tingling spider sense effect, so I think they did a really nice job with the accessories. I can't really think of anything else I would have liked here other than a better unmasked head. And then for a couple of quick head swaps here, we have the Maximum Series Spider-Man with the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man head. A couple of people asked if that works, and it kind of works. I feel like it's a little big, but I guess you could fudge it if you really want to. And then here's a look at the Maximum Series head on the Renew Your Vows body, and as you can see, it does look kind of small. I mean, I feel like we're kind of used to seeing Spider-Man with a big head in a lot of artwork and on figures, so I feel like that works, but the smaller head on the Renew Your Vows body doesn't necessarily work as well. I'm going to have to take my time with swapping these heads out because if I misplace one of the heads or mix it up, I'm not going to know what goes where. Well, for the other Spider-Man figures, I feel like the Maximum series is unique enough to know exactly where it goes. Anyways, so here's the 2-pack Spider-Man. What the hell? What's up with that ball peg? Head on the Maximum series. And again, it does look like it's a little big, but I guess you could kind of make it work if you want to justify it and say that, Spider-Man sometimes has a big head. Again, this is too small. Yeah, so I think for the most part, heads are going to be, fudgeable, I guess, but not really straight up interchangeable. And then this is the Amazing Friends Spider-Man. He's a little smaller, so maybe this should work. Oh yeah, that looks good. Oh yeah. That definitely works, right? Let's see how this looks. Yeah, I think this one is passable, this head swap. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And we have one more, so we're going to go old school with it. This is the Pizza Spider-Man from the Retro Spider-Man wave. Was it a Retro wave? I don't know what it was called. Ooh, that doesn't really fit. Oh, yeah, it does. Oh, that looks pretty good. The reds don't necessarily match, but the size is pretty good. And it looks cool. So yeah, there we go. Have a couple of head swap options. And then as far as unmasked heads goes, let's get these guys over here. Here we have the Renew Your Vows Peter Parker head. Oh, that works. Yeah, that looks good. That's way better than the unmasked head that he comes with. So that's nice. And then next up we have, this is the Zombie Hunter Spider-Man from the What If wave. I just like this head sculpt a lot. I like the animated look that it has. And it works good just for a Peter Parker head sculpt. I think it looks good on this body. The size is okay, you know, so that works. And then last but not least, we have the OG animated series Peter Parker head sculpt. There we go. This, oh man, this looks a little big, but I love the way that looks. This is a great looking head sculpt right out of the cartoon. Yeah, I mean, it's slightly big, I guess, but I think that's fudgeable. You know, once Peter Parker takes his mask off and his hair is flowing everywhere, like, you know, the fact that it looks a little big is kind of like forgivable. You could kind of get away with it. So yeah, there's definitely some head swap possibilities, not necessarily with some of the straight up Spider-Man head sculpts, but some of the Peter Parker head sculpts actually work across the board. And that's awesome to have all these different possibilities because the Peter Parker head sculpt that Maximum Series Spider-Man comes with, it's okay, but it's not great. So taking a look at some size comparisons, here we have the Maximum Series Spider-Man alongside the Sentinel Into the Spider-Verse Peter B. Parker. On the opposite side, we have the Mafex classic comic book Spider-Man. And a lot of people are going to be debating between the Maximum Series and the Mafex. I know a lot of questions are going to be around like which one is better, which one is more worth it to pick up because of the prices and this and that. There's a lot to talk about between these two figures. And initially when the Maximum Series was revealed, I didn't think that it had a chance to really compare to the Mafex version. And now that I have it in hand, I'm not going to sit here and say it's up there with the Mafex or that it's better than the Mafex, but I will say I do feel like there's a valid comparison there and there's a good conversation to be had. I do plan on doing a comparison video between these two figures. And, you know, I will say straight up, there are certain things that the Maximum Series does better than the Mafex. And obviously, there are some things that the Mafex does much better than the Maximum Series. So, yeah, there's going to be a lot to talk about. I look forward to putting together that video. But it's cool that we have so many high-level Spider-Man figures to choose from. So, honestly, we're all winning right now. And then next up, we have the Maximum Spider-Man alongside Spidey from the Amazing Friends 3-pack. On the opposite side, we have the animated series Spider-Man from the 2-pack with Vulture. And there's a couple of interesting things here. First off, this 2-pack Spider-Man actually has a nicer matte finish than the Maximum series. I mean, it's nowhere near as good of a figure, not even close. But I will say the finish on him is not, I mean, it's not straight up as matte as I'd want, but it's definitely not as glossy as the Maximum series. And another thing that's interesting here is that the Maximum series is pretty short, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with this height for Peter Parker, but I was surprised to see that he's pretty close to the same size as this 3-pack Spider-Man, which, like I mentioned before, shares the same body as the Amazing Fantasy Spidey. And I like that size for Spider-Man. To me, that's a really good scale. If anything, I feel like the Renew Your Vows is a little bit too big. So I do like this size for Spider-Man, and I'm happy that they went that route with the Maximum series. And then here we have Maximum Spider-Man alongside the Marvel Legends No Way Home Spider-Man figures. And yeah, check this out, man. Like the finish on these two figures is perfect, especially this one over here. Like this looks really good. And I just wish that the Maximum Spider-Man had this same type of finish. It would have looked so much better. And it's a little frustrating because, you know, Hasbro has the capability to do certain things, but for whatever reason, they elect not to. And I think in this case, it was probably like a stylistic choice. But yeah, they definitely should have made Maximum Series Spider-Man have a cool matte finish like these guys. I'll try to stop talking about the damn matte finish, but again, it's the one real flaw with this figure, so I'm going to talk about it. But anyways, okay, I'm going to talk about it one more time because as you can see, Punisher has a really nice finish to him. It looks really good. They should have done that with Spider-Man. Anyways, here we have Spidey alongside the War Journal 2-pack Punisher and the Secret Wars Spider-Man. I know we just showed a Spidey on this body, but I wanted to get a black suit in here with them. I would kind of like to see this Spider-Man in the black suit colors. I don't want them to do repaints of the Maximum series figures, but what do you guys think if they did like a black suit Spider-Man and released it without all the accessories and charged less? Would you guys be cool with that? Or like, do you think that it would kind of decrease the uniqueness of this Maximum series Spider-Man? Let me know in the comments. You know, one thing I do not want to see, I don't want them to repaint this Spider-Man figure for other characters. Like, I don't want to see a Daredevil on this body or a Deadpool or none of that. Like, I do feel like these sculpts should be unique to these characters, but I wouldn't be that upset like if they did some Spidey repaints and gave us like different versions of Spider-Man on this body, because I like what we have going on with this body. It'd be cool to get like a Spider-Man 2099 or a black suit Spider-Man, but just don't do different characters. And I know Spider-Man 2099 is a different character, but you guys know what I mean. Anyways, let me know in the comments. Would you be down for less expensive repaints of this body if they released it without all the accessories? Here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends X-Men 97 Wolverine and the Marvel Legends Agent Venom. Next up, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Hammerhead and the Marvel Legends Dr. Octopus. And then here we have him alongside the Thousand Toys Synthetic Human. On the opposite side, we have the Mezco 112 Collective Across the Spider-Verse Miles Morales. And then next up, we have him alongside the Marvel Legends Renew Your Vows Spider-Man and the Marvel Legends Bucky Cap. And then here we have him alongside the Marvel Legends animated series Lizard. I freaking love that figure. This one here has a soft goods jacket from the homie Rebel 10 Customs. Be sure to check her out. She absolutely killed it on this and upgraded this already amazing figure. On the opposite side, we have the Walmart exclusive Marvel Legends Venom. And damn, I really like the size between this Venom and this Spider-Man. You could definitely set up some cool shots with these two. Next up, we have him alongside the Mafex Carnage and the Mafex Venom. I think he looks pretty good next to them. And then here we have Spidey alongside the Marvel Legends 3-pack Daredevil and the Mafex Daredevil. And I think he looks really good next to both of them. Like I said before, I like the fact that he's a little on the small side. It works perfectly when you have him next to characters like Daredevil. And to get him in here with a couple of Spidey villains, here we have Maximum Spider-Man alongside the Marvel Legends Electro and the Marvel Legends Shocker. And then here we have Spidey alongside the Mafex Classic Comic Book Captain America and the Mafex Classic Comic Book Iron Man. I try to hit you guys with a bunch of size comparisons. Hopefully that was enough. But here we have the most important size comparison. Last but not least, we have the Maximum Spider-Man alongside the NECA Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mirage Comics Kirby, aka the King Jack Kirby. On the opposite side, we have my original character, Odious. This figure is available now. I'll leave a link to him in the description below. Also, be on the lookout. We have a new Kickstarter about to launch pretty soon with a bunch of new versions of Odious. I'm very excited about that. So yeah, as far as the scale on Spider-Man, I'm happy with it. I'm glad they went a little smaller. I think he looks really good next to all kinds of different 112 scale figure lines. So for me, by far the best thing about this figure is definitely the articulation and the fun factor. Now, there isn't anything necessarily game-changing or mind-blowing, but I just think that Hasbro just executed everything really well. The joints feel good, they move nicely, they get some good range, and most importantly, the figure is extremely fun to play with. And there's a lot of familiar things going on here, but I think that Hasbro did a better job with a lot of the joints on him than we've seen on other Spider-Man figures. For instance, like on the shoulders, like Maximum Spider-Man shoulders go all the way back. Like they don't stop before they're supposed to. And when you look at the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, they only go back to about right there. So, they just did a better job on the shoulder joints. They're both butterfly joints, but on the Maximum series, they go all the way back. And on the Renew Your Vows, they do not. And, that was pretty ridiculous on that figure. Like, they could have done it correctly. They've done it before, and obviously now they're doing it after. But yeah, that was really nice to see. And then, like, as far as the drop-down hips, like, I have his drop-down hips. Look at, like, they don't really even come down. I mean, they come down a little bit, but it's not very significant. And then when you bring his legs down, you can kick his leg up to like right there, which is pretty, that's pretty respectable. That's not horrible or anything. That'll definitely work, but it's just better on the new Spider-Man figure. So look how far his hips drop down. You could drop him down like crazy and bring his leg way up. And just look how much forward he crunches. You could fold him in half. I don't know if you need to fold him in half, but you can. But yeah, look at that. The difference is pretty significant. And like I said, it's not bad on the Renew Your Vows, but it's just so much better on Maximum series. So that's very cool to see. It's a significant upgrade. And another example of how things just work better on him than on previous Spider-Man figures, we have this one here, which they have like similar torso articulation setups. They have a diaphragm cut and an ab crunch on the lower side. But on this one here, the diaphragm cut doesn't really do too much for you. Like you can't move it forward too much. Like it barely even crunches like at all. I mean, you get your crunch from the actual ab crunch, but as far as like the diaphragm, doesn't really go forward too much. Whereas on the Maximum Spider-Man, it doesn't go forward a lot, but it goes forward a little bit, which just kind of like makes the figure feel like more dynamic. And when you're using both joints together, you could see that it moves a lot more forward on the Maximum series than it does on the uh, Amazing Friends version. So again, that's just improvements, which is awesome to see. And his shoulders kind of suck, by the way. Like his go back less than the Renew Your Vows. So yeah, man, it's really cool to see them make improvements on these previous Spider-Man figures. And obviously, some of those improvements are things that shouldn't have been issues in the first place. So, whatever. But I'm really happy to see that they've made this Spider-Man so much better than previous ones when it comes to the articulation. But let's go ahead and see what we have going on here, starting off at the head. So we do have a hinge at the upper neck, which is really dope. And then obviously the head is on a ball joint, so you can move that around. And then he does have a lower neck ball joint, which is nice, but it is somewhat limited. Like, I think they could have done a better job with that. If you look at Jada figures or Jada Toys figures, like their lower neck joints get some crazy range. So I think that Hasbro could have done a better job on that. So I might have to modify that situation. But what I like about this is that you could rotate it and then use the hinge to get Spider-Man to look like do some really dope head tilting kind of thing. So that's really nice to see. There's definitely some good work going on here in the neck and the head area. But I think they could have done a better job with that lower neck joint. And one thing I wanted to point out about the neck, although it's like pretty limited on that lower neck area, there's still some cool things you could do here. So watch, check this out. You can, as it is right now out of the box, you could get him to look up to about right there, which is pretty good. But if you spin the neck around and kind of flip this and go like this, it goes up even more. So that's nice. And it doesn't look weird or anything like that. So if you want to get him into like a crazy pose where he's kneeling forward like that, you could twist the neck around and make it work for you. So that's a cool little option. And then for the torso, as we discussed, we get some really great range. We have a diaphragm cut and a ab crunch on the lower side. Using both of those, he's able to crunch forward to about right there, which again is very impressive. And he's able to go back to about right there, which is pretty good. And then the diaphragm cut is pretty nice. You're able to twist right there. We get some nice side-to-side movement for those dynamic poses. And, the lower neck joint definitely helps with that kind of stuff. So that's cool. Really good stuff here at the torso. And, a lot of people say that he should have had a ball joint at the waist and at the torso. And definitely, that's one of my favorite torso setups. But I think for Spider-Man, having this type of setup allows him to get into like deeper crouching poses. So that's really cool to see. And then for the arms, as I said, he does have a butterfly joint, which gets way back, which is cool. And they go forward a really nice amount too. Look at this. Like, that's pretty dope. Not too bad at all. Crossbody action. Like, that's very nice. And then obviously he does have a upper bicep swivel. Double jointed elbows that get a good bend. He has a swivel at the forearm because the interchangeable, web shooter piece. And then he does have swivel at the wrist and a hinge. And then for the legs, as we discussed, he does have that drop down hip that goes way up, which is pretty crazy. It's got to be one of the best drop down hips that we've seen, right? Look at that. That's awesome. Doesn't really go. Oh yeah, it does. I was going to say he doesn't really do the splits, but I mean, that's pretty close to a full on splits, right? And he can bring his leg back a little bit. Yeah, that'll work. We'll get him into some poses in a minute here. But yeah, pretty good stuff at the legs. Then he does have upper thigh swivel. Double jointed knees that get a good bend. Boot swivel. His foot goes forward to right there, comes up to right there. And then we get some rocking action and then toe hinge. So yeah, like I said, he has all the articulation that we would want in a Spider-Man figure. And, he's just fun to play with. Hasbro has like a very durable quality to their figure. And when they're able to marry the durable quality and the articulation and fun factor, it makes their figures extra fun because you could play with them without having to worry about messing anything up or breaking them or anything like that. So I think that's one huge appeal of like Hasbro figures compared to some like other options out there, like imports and stuff. Imports do a lot of things really great, but a lot of times they feel very fragile. So you don't really have to worry about that with this version of Spider-Man, or with a lot of Hasbro figures. So that's very nice. But yeah, you could definitely get him into all kinds of crazy poses. And even though the neck definitely could have been done a little better, it still gives you a lot of great options. Like, yeah, you could do all kinds of stuff. Like, you could never do something like this on a previous Hasbro Spider-Man figure. So that's really nice. Look at that. I love the way he could look behind them. That's so cool. So yeah, man, I'm very, very happy with the articulation on him. I don't know if there's anything that I would necessarily change all that much. If anything, just that lower neck needs a little bit more range, and then we're pretty much good. I love what we have going on here. So yeah, I think they did a great job with it. Alrighty, so overall, at the end of the day, when the smoke clears, the dust settles, and it's all said and done, this figure is absolutely by far the best Spider-Man figure that Hasbro has ever given us. He is such a huge improvement over all the other Hasbro Spider-Man Marvel Legends figures, and I just think that Hasbro did an incredible job all the way around. I don't have any huge complaints, but he's not perfect. There are little things here and there they could have done differently, but for the most part, it's a really, really nice Spider-Man, and it definitely feels very close to Hasbro's like maximum potential. I don't know if they could have made a much better Spider-Man figure than this. I don't know if they're capable of it. I think this is a really, really good version of him. And as far as like things that could have been done better, the only thing that really comes to mind is that they probably should have hit him with the matte finish. I know that's a small thing, but it would have gone a long way. As it is right now, he does look a little too glossy, and because of that, he looks like a Marvel Legends figure. And he is a Legends figure, but because of the price and stuff, we did want him to look and feel a little bit more premium. And I think like a matte finish would have done that for this figure. And they've done matte finishes before. Like Punisher has a nice like look to it, a nice finish and stuff. So if they would have applied that to this Spider-Man, it would have made it feel a little bit more high quality. And I think it would have done a better job at justifying that maximum premium concept. But as it is right now, it still feels like a figure that's above the level of your standard Marvel Legends. And that's a good thing. As far as the articulation goes, he's extremely posable. He's got a bunch of points of articulation. He's a whole lot of fun to play with. And, one thing that's kind of unique for Hasbro is their figures are very durable, obviously, because they're made for everybody. So you go play with them and, drop them and mess with them and whatever. And for the most part, you're not going to have too much to worry about. You could still enjoy the figure and it's going to be all good. You can't really say that for every 1/12 scale line out there. So that's something that's pretty unique for Hasbro. And in the case of Spider-Man, because it's Spidey and you want to play with it a lot, he's durable and he has a lot of articulation. So you can mess with them all day and drop them or whatever. Don't have to worry about anything getting messed up. So that's always nice. And, it just kind of, it's something that I appreciate more when it's a figure that has like a lot of articulation that I'm going to want to play with a lot. Like this figure, it's hard for me to put down. It's definitely hand candy. It's always special to get a Spider-Man figure that's posable and fun to play with. This definitely does that job. As far as the accessories go, there are a lot of great things. I do feel like they try to justify the price with the accessories, and that could be dangerous because to me, at the end of the day, it's the figure that has to deliver. I do feel like this figure does deliver for the most part, but the accessories are cool. I like all the different hands. I love the web shooters and the exposed hands. That is so dope. The Peter Parker head sculpt on him is not very good at all. Like, I don't hate it as much as some other people, but they definitely could have done a better job with it. Hasbro has made much better Peter Parker head sculpts. So yeah, that I would say that's a loss. Like that head sculpt is not great. I doubt that anyone's going to really use that for photos because it's just not very good. I do like all the web effects, especially the shield. That's super cool and unique. So yeah, I would say that the accessories are great. As far as the look on the figure, I like the way he looks. I like the design, the proportions, the colors, the dark blue, the red, all that looks nice. The web lines are very cleanly painted. I know some people will say that they would have preferred sculpted web lines, and I get that because that would definitely make it feel like a little bit more premium as well. But at the same time, I'm not, sculpted web lines are cool, but for me, I could take them or leave them. I'm completely fine with painted web lines as long as they're nice. And I think that on this figure, they are. So I'm good with that. But I could definitely understand how people would see differently and would want sculpted lines. I get it. But for me, I'm okay. So yeah, I would say all the way around, they did a really great job. But now let's talk about the price. So even with all that said, do I think it's worth $50? Now that's hard to say because $50 is expensive. That's a lot of money for an action figure, especially for an action figure from Hasbro. Like we're accustomed to paying like higher prices for imports and specialty figures and those types of things, but for Hasbro, $50, that's quite a bit. And worth it, whether it's worth it or not, that's like subjective to each individual. I will say this though. I paid full price for this guy and I'm completely happy. That's the best way I could put it to you. I don't know if that's going to work for everyone else. And if you're somebody that just doesn't like Hasbro products, but you want Spider-Man, I don't think this figure is going to convince you to love Hasbro Marvel Legends all of a sudden. If you're already not a fan of Marvel Legends, like probably just stay away from it, especially if you think it's too expensive. Now, if you love Hasbro and you want a really good Spider-Man figure, I think chances are you're going to be pretty happy with this figure. But again, as far as whether or not it's worth it, that's up to you. I would say get as much information as you possibly can. A bunch of people are going to review it, post pictures, all that kind of stuff. So, ask some questions and watch the reviews and take some responsibility. You know what I'm saying? Like do all the research, get all the information you possibly can, and go out there and make an educated buying decision. So, again, it's hard to say whether it's worth 50. I will tell you, I paid full price and I'm completely happy. And there it is. And with that, I think that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Also, be sure to hit the bell notification so you know every time that I go live. Thank you very much. Peace.